Marriage used to be built to last. Now, it's more like a subscription. You cancel when you're not satisfied anymore. Almost half of first marriages end in divorce. Second marriages, even worse. 60 to 67% don't make it. And here's the real kicker. 70% of those divorces are filed by women. So what changed? How did we go from marriage being the foundation of society to something disposable? This isn't just about no-fault divorce. Something deeper shifted. Marriage used to be about duty, sacrifice, and survival. Today, it's about one thing: personal happiness. And the second that fades, it's over. A generation was taught to walk away the moment things got hard. And now, we're seeing the consequences. For most of history, marriage was one of the most stable things in society. Divorce was rare. Couples found ways to make it work, even through the tough times. Back in the 1950s and 60s, divorce rates were under 20%. But then, something changed. By the 1970s, divorce skyrocketed to nearly 50%. And for the first time, women started leaving marriages in record numbers. So what happened? People today say they get divorced for the same old reasons: money problems, cheating, growing apart, lack of intimacy, emotional dissatisfaction. But those problems have always existed. Couples have always struggled with finances, temptation, and emotional distance. Yet back then, they still stayed together. Some argue that economic struggles are a major driver of divorce. But if that were true, then college-educated women, the most financially secure demographic, wouldn't be initiating divorce at such high rates. In fact, studies have shown that while women initiate approximately 70% of all divorces, among college-educated women, this rate rises to 90%. Clearly, this isn't just about money. Something far more fundamental changed, and it reshaped marriage into something it was never meant to be. Marriage used to be about more than just love. It was about survival. It was a partnership where both people needed each other. Men didn't just marry for companionship. They saw it as their duty to provide, protect, and lead their families. Women weren't just staying because they had no choice. They played a vital role as nurturers, homemakers, and caregivers. Both men and women had strong reasons to work through their problems, because walking away had real consequences. Then came the shift. Feminism claimed to be about advancing women, giving them more freedom, more choices, more control over their lives. It positioned itself as a movement for equality, pushing women towards careers, independence, and self-fulfillment. But in redefining what it meant to be a woman, it also redefined what marriage was supposed to be. It framed tradition as oppression, sacrifice as servitude, and dependence as weakness. Feminism didn't just give women more options, it changed what women valued in the first place. Marriage was no longer about two people building something together. It became a trap that women needed to escape. Feminism taught women that needing a man made them lesser, that personal happiness was more important than family stability. The message was clear. If marriage wasn't making you happy, if it wasn't giving you what you wanted, then leave, without guilt, without hesitation. At the same time, women entered the workforce in record numbers. Unlike their grandmothers who depended on marriage for survival, this new generation of women didn't need a husband to provide security. And when you take away the need to stay, leaving becomes an easier option. And then the laws changed. In the 1970s, no-fault divorce was introduced, allowing people to walk away from a marriage for any reason, or for no reason at all. Divorce no longer required proof of wrongdoing. It became a personal choice, as easy as breaking up with a boyfriend. At the same time, divorce settlements began favoring women financially. A woman could now leave her marriage and still walk away with half a man's assets, alimony, child support, and sometimes even a cut of his future earnings. By the 1980s, courts weren't just awarding financial support for struggling spouses. They were maintaining women's lifestyles, even when they were the ones initiating the divorce. Marriage became the only contract in the world where one party is financially incentivized for breaking it. So what happens when you take an institution built on commitment, strip away responsibility, remove financial dependence, make leaving easier, and then financially reward the person who walks away? You get exactly what we have today: women filing for divorce more than ever before. In an effort to reform marriage, they made the whole institution disposable. Then came a cultural shift that completely redefined marriage. It was no longer seen as a lifelong partnership built on duty and resilience. It became a personal experience designed to maximize happiness and emotional fulfillment. The focus moved away from shared responsibility and long-term commitment to an individual-centered mindset, where a marriage wasn't measured by how well it endured hardship, but how much happiness it provided in the moment. Marriage stopped being about building a life together and instead became about sustaining the feeling of being in love. It wasn't about companionship or shared goals anymore. It was about chasing passion, excitement, and emotional validation. And if those feelings faded, that wasn't seen as a normal phase of a long-term commitment. It was a sign the marriage was failing. This shift didn't happen overnight. It was fueled by a mix of feminist ideology, changing social norms, and media narratives, all of which reframed marriage from a foundation for life into a lifestyle choice. Something optional, something you could abandon the moment it no longer served you. The moment marriage became about what someone could get instead of what they could give, it was only a matter of time before people started walking away the second it stopped serving them. Back when both partners genuinely needed each other, they had strong reasons to work through problems. But once women became financially independent, the entire relationship dynamic shifted. Marriage was no longer about partnership. It became an evaluation. It wasn't how do we endure anymore. It became, am I getting enough? And if the answer was no, then leaving wasn't just an option, it was the obvious choice. And why fight for something when there are no real consequences for walking away? This is why modern marriages are more fragile than ever. Not built on for better or worse till death do us part, but on for as long as I'm happy and nothing better comes along. Both men and women have the freedom to leave. So why are women the ones walking away the most? It's not just that women can leave. It's that they've been taught that they should the moment they're unhappy. Yes, some divorces happen for good reasons: abuse, neglect, true incompatibility. But the majority aren't about survival. They're about modern expectations. When you redefine marriage around happiness instead of commitment, you make leaving the easy choice. Meanwhile, men still see commitment as a responsibility, not just a feeling. That's why, even when they're unhappy, they're more likely to stay. Not necessarily because they're fulfilled, but because they separate duty from emotion. For women, if the emotional bond is gone, the marriage often feels like it's already over. But that doesn't mean men are perfect. Plenty stay in marriages while cheating, emotionally checked out but still bound by duty. Others refuse to lead, failing to provide the stability a family needs. But why are so many men today unwilling or unable to step up? Because feminism didn't just change how women see marriage, it rewired how men see themselves. It raised entire generations of boys under its ideology. Boys who grew up without strong fathers. Boys who were told masculinity was toxic, oppressive, and outdated. And on top of that, men were bombarded with contradictory messages. Feminism told them, "You're not needed. I can do just fine without you," while also demanding, "Step up, be a real man, take responsibility." It shamed them for being traditional, yet still expected them to be protectors, providers, and leaders, when it was convenient. The result? A generation of men who checked out, who stopped trying, who never learned how to lead, not because they didn't want to, but because they were told the world didn't want them to. So yes, some men have failed in marriage, but they didn't just become weak. They were raised to be weak, by the same system that now turns around and blames them for it. Some will say this is a win for women, that they finally have the power to leave bad relationships instead of being trapped like their grandmothers were. They'll argue that independence has liberated women from controlling oppressive marriages, and that rising divorce rates are just proof that female empowerment is working. But if that were true, if men were really the problem in marriage, then taking them out of the equation should have made relationships stronger. But that's not what's happening. Lesbian couples are nearly 3 times more likely to divorce than gay male couples. In the UK, while 56% of same-sex marriages are between women, lesbian couples account for 72% of same-sex divorces. In the Netherlands, 30% of lesbian marriages end in divorce, compared to just 18% of heterosexual marriages and only 15% of gay male marriages. If men were the real problem, then removing them would have made relationships stronger. But the data shows the opposite. Marriages without men fall apart even faster. Removing men didn't solve the issue, it exposed it. The problem was never just men. It was how feminism rewired both men and women to see marriage differently. And in reshaping what marriage meant, we also made people question if it was worth it at all. We turned marriage into a high-stakes gamble where the odds are stacked against you, and now fewer people are willing to bet their future on it. If you found this video insightful, you might like another one on a similar topic. Click on the thumbnail to watch or keep exploring. Also, please comment, like, and subscribe to the channel.